Well, good evening, and welcome to the Nampa City Council meeting. We appreciate those that are in the room and those that may be joining us online. And it looks like we have a lot of staff here tonight, and Christian, thank you for being here tonight. So, I always appreciate the tradition of opening in prayer, and Craig Hansen, thank you so much for being here tonight to open us as we start a new year. So thank you so much, Pastor of Valley Springs Assembly of God Church. So let's stand and we'll let you say a few words and pray for us.
Yes, trying to always be respectful of your time, and hopefully your business goes smoothly and quickly tonight. Just one scripture that I want to share out of the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 4. It says, "Behold the proud, his soul is not upright in him, but the just shall live by faith." And I just found it interesting, everything that Habakkuk was doing as a prophet of God at that point, what he had to say. But what's really interesting to me is I found out the name Habakkuk. It means embracer, embracer of good things in this regard, and one who clings on. And so with everything Habakkuk was going through, he was one who stayed humble and faithful to God and says, I don't know what's going on, God, but I'm going to cling to you in respect. So I guess just as we begin this new year, I don't make resolutions because, well, for one thing, I never follow through, so why bother? But I choose to live where I was with God last year and carry it forward and go forward as fast as possible, or as good as we possibly can. So I just thought that would be good. And it is a privilege because I got to be here for the final council meeting of last year and the first one of this year. So I'm marking that in my little diary book about that. So it is a pleasure to be here, and thank you for your faithfulness to service. So let's pray. Lord Jesus, I thank you for these council members and everything that they do. Lord, I thank you for the genuineness that I see in the expression on their face and the joy that they are filled with. Lord, I pray that their lives be blessed this year. I pray that the business of Nampa City that they do, Lord God, will prosper this community. And Lord, I pray for each one of us to faithfully look to you with humble hearts, just acknowledging that you are the omnipotent, almighty, and sovereign God. And Lord, may your majesty reign in Nampa. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Thank you, and have a great meeting.
Pastor Craig, thank you. Blessings to you.
I'm headed for my twin grandson's birthday party right now.
Have fun. Take care. Thank you.
You didn't get the note.
I did not get the memo.
So I am not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda, Council? Yes. Oh, roll call. Thank you.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
I mean, here.
Brunner.
Either way.
Present.
Present.
I'm here, I think, also. Okay, here.
Jangula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
Bauer.
Here.
All present.
Okay, now we'll do any proposed amendments. Thank you so much. I just skipped that, didn't I? I'm not aware of any proposed amendments to the agenda. Council, do you have any suggested amendments?
No.
Nope. Okay, so I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jangula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Here.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And I think I will state that for those, just for the record, actually, we have changed our meeting up just a little bit. First of all, we're putting a few things on the consent agenda that used to be under new business, and we're doing that to help expedite the meeting. And they're items that typically are more routine items that we're accustomed to seeing and that are under a certain dollar amount. So, and it's not an exact dollar amount, but there may be certain routine items that we do on an annual basis, but they're $900,000. So that one we're going to go ahead and put on the agenda, but you'll see more items on our consent agenda, which is important then for obviously our council to review, which they do, and thank you guys. The other thing that has changed in the meeting is that we have moved our public hearings up to 6 p.m. So we'll try to move quickly through our business agenda each time and be ready at 6 o'clock for our public hearings to begin. So the next item on the agenda is the public forum, and it's anyone wishing to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. And I don't see that there is anyone signed up. Is there anyone here that had intended to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll move forward to proclamations, of which we have none, and agency and commission reports, we have none. We do have a staff communication with Tom Points. Tom, thank you for joining us this evening.
Evening, Mayor and Council. I just have a snow report for you. It'll be pretty quick. Had six events, and you got the numbers with the brine and the salt and the labor hours. Things have been going well. Out of our 6 trucks, we've got one that's broke down right now, but it's in the shop getting an injector fixed. Hope to have that back soon. We're not seeing any real events for snow in the next 10-day forecast, so it's kind of looking a little bit like last year so far with snow in December and then lightening up in January. But we'll hope for some snow in the mountains is what Don always tells me.
And that's it?
That's it. But Daniel actually has a correcting statement from last time that he wants to just.
Okay, and while you're on the snow, I just want to say I commend our streets crew. Great job being on top of it, because it was a busy month this last month, and around the holidays. They were really busy, but they're out there. I just want to say thank you for their hard work.
Yeah. Thanks,
Mayor.
Mayor.
Yes.
What snow plows down? Is it Lightning
I
McQueen?
don't know,
or-
Counselor.
You know, that's
I should know that. I don't know.
That's a pretty important piece of information, because we're
I'll have to
concerned
find out.
about, right, if it's. Yeah. You know what? You'll have people concerned, right? You're-
Lightning McQueen?
Mayor and council, there was some questions last time when Tom and I weren't here about the Birch Franklin change order and the contract with the utility companies. Unfortunately, as I was prepping Crystal for that, I went through all the questions that I thought might come up. You guys had some different questions, and we do things differently here than they are done at ITD at Crystal's previous employment. So the main point is that the utility coordination and work is not done under the general contractor's contract. That is done, we coordinate with the utility companies, and it's done by them outside of the contract. Generally under our franchise agreement with them, they are required to move when we tell them to. And so I just wanted to clarify that fact, that it is not something that the general contractor is responsible for. It is coordination we do with them. And so we will be working directly with them for the reimbursement. The general contractor is not involved.
So that said, the overage, we may be billed by the general contractor for the delay. We are going to have to go after the
And
utility
we
and
will-
ask them to reimburse us those costs.
We will pass that on to the utility. We will pay and then get money back from them. Similar situation to what happened with the Nampa Highway District last year with their roundabout, where we ended up paying some of that delay claim, as well as CenturyLink and a couple others in that particular instance. So.
Mayor.
Thank you, yes.
So if liquidated damages, is there liquidated damages in their contract?
There are liquidated damages in the contract, yes.
Is it equal to what the general contractor's responsible for?
So they would be responsible for days beyond the contract amount that were within their control. The delay days and the extension due to the weather, they would not be responsible for. We would not assess liquidated damages in that portion. We will pass the additional costs to the city on to CenturyLink.
And you're tracking that by change order?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I ask a question. Was everything that the GC has done so far, were they behind on some of their stuff they could have completed? I noticed there was last week concrete blankets on some of that stuff still.
So they are not necessarily behind. They have been given extra days due to the delay from Lumen. There were days awarded there, as well as some additional days because we got into cold weather concreting, and then the pause in the contract. So at this point, we have awarded days as appropriate for the work that they've been done and the delays that Lumen caused.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Daniel, thank you. Appreciate that clarification. Okay, we will move to new business at this time. Our first item is an action item, 6.1 on the agenda, and this is to authorize the Family Justice Center to apply for a STOP one-year grant for statewide training on the Idaho Risk Assessment of Dangerousness through the Idaho State Police.
So move.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or discussion for Jeannie? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Jeannie. You get to go home now. Okay, item 6.2 on the agenda. This is an action item, and this is to authorize the adoption of the City Nampa Municipal Airport Fiscal Year 2023 Airport Strategic Plan. Crystal Craig is going to come up and give us a presentation on that. And I just want to say thank you for the hard work. Lindsay, thank you for all you do. Really appreciate, because you've worked hard on this, and it's been a great collaborative effort. And so look forward to hearing about it. Thank you.
Give me 1 second while it pulls out. There it is. Thank you. Good evening. I just wanted to give you a brief overview about the strategic plan that the airport has put together. So, starting first with the background, a little bit of timeline of what we've done so far. In the winter of 2021, we began work on the airport strategic plan, and we hired a consultant. It was Airport Business Solutions LLC to assist us in that task. They submitted it late last fall, and the Airport Commission accepted the business plan in November of 2022, so just a couple months ago. The intent of this plan, so a little bit of like, why do we need one of these, right? The purpose of this is it's supposed to be a reference, like a living document of our current and our upcoming planning projects, just to be updated. Oh, I need to get rid of that, sorry. Our plan is to update this yearly, regularly, as market conditions change throughout it. So a little bit about what's in it, and it is included in the council packet for you. This is not an all-inclusive list. I've just pulled out a few highlights for you. The first, it talks about the general aviation history and industry data. And then it deep dives into the regional market analysis. That's on page 268 of the plan, is when it gets really into the market rates and comparing our amenities to other people's amenities. It talks about a review of the current airport guiding documents, so that's the minimum standards and the rules and regulations that we have set forth, as well as going into the facility and financial analysis that looks at the past 5 years of our data, of all of our expenses and our income. It does a high-level SWOT analysis to talk about our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, as well as it finalizing with some marketing recommendations on getting community involvement and engagement for our airport. So I'd like to deep dive a little bit more into the rates, which I view as really the meat and potatoes of this plan for us. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit globally about how we administer our rates currently. And in this example, I've got a leasehold versus a building footprint. So currently, if you look at on the map or in front of you in your council packet, in the green box, that's considered the building footprint. That's currently how we administer our rates. So what we do is we charge per square foot of just the building footprint that's encumbered by the hangar. However, what this proposes for us to do is to change to a leasehold rate, which you can view in the blue box coming up. How that differs is it talks about the building footprint plus the hangar space in front of it, in between the taxiway and the front of the hangar. So in this example, you can see on the north, or in the upper half of it, you've got the building footprint in green plus the areas to the left and right as it gets to the taxiway. And then the higher commodity, like the bigger corner lots, you're gonna see a bigger leasehold as they have access on 3 sides of their hangar instead of just 2 hangars. So typically, the leasehold rate is about 2 to 3 times what a building footprint rate is. So knowing this, I want to get into a little bit about the market rate study that they completed. And I have a table right here that shows the adjusted comparable airport rates to all of the surrounding airports around here. So the third column, the annual rate as a defined leasehold, is really what the bulk of the other airports do. In fact, all of them on the list, with the exception of us and Weezer, currently use a leasehold rate. So one of the recommendations to move to leasehold is to make us more comparable to other market standards.
Mayor, could I ask a quick question? How come Caldwell isn't on this list?
It is Treasure Valley - Caldwell. It's near the bottom.
Okay, sorry, I didn't didn't see that.
Great question. So what they did is they took their rates and they used that factor of 3 to 4, and they kind of calculated what it would be if there was all a building footprint. So you can either look at the far right column as a building footprint or the column directly to the left of that as a leasehold and compare the rates against each other. I would like to caveat that the rates shown in this table were from when the analysis was done, which was in June of 2022. These rates have changed since then, including ours, but you can kind of compare apples to apples and get an idea of what they look like at that time. But regardless of how you look at it, whether it was at a leasehold rate or the building footprint rate, you can see that Nampa Municipal Airport is far under the market standards compared to our other airports around us. So on top of looking at funding opportunities that include increasing our rates, they also looked at future funding opportunities for the airport. That included, like I said earlier, going from a building footprint to a leasehold rate, and they recommended an increased rate, an increased leasehold rate between 20 cents and 25 cents per square foot. They are encouraging us to look at our city-owned hangar facilities to do an even deeper dive on market analysis on those, as well as encouraging us to continue the grant pursuits that we've been really successful with so far, to look at additional taxiways, additional opportunities for hangar development, as well as any future airport development needs that we have. And then another large recommendation they have is relocating our for future hangar development. As I stated before, November of 2022, the Airport Commission adopted it, but I would like to point out that they had a couple of comments. They submitted a memo, and all of these comments are in your board packet. The first is they wanted to commend us. They said that the strategic business plan had some insightful parts, but they did encourage that this be a living document and not static. So they would like to see it updated regularly with market conditions. Then they also wanted to talk about they're grateful to the city support and continuing to allocate a small portion of the general fund to the airport each year for business actions. And then they also wanted to note that maintaining the airport at the current level of service would not be sustainable just by placing the full cost of operations on the airport users. So talking about next steps, if this is adopted today by council, our next step would be pursuing that market adjustment rate. You will most likely see at the next city council meeting, or the first one in February, our recommendation for that. After that, we would need to look at updating the airport policy documents. So those are the rules and regulations that we talked about before, so that they are also not a static document, as well as developing industry standard marketing goals to talk about how we can make the airport even bigger and get some more community engagement in that. And then lastly, continuing pursuing some of those grant funding opportunities for our larger projects, like installing new taxiways, building new hangars, our new terminal building, and things like that. So more to come on that. With that, I'll stand for any questions on the business plan that you guys may have.
Crystal, thank you. Yes,
I'm sorry. Yes,
Councilman Rodriguez.
you know, one of the things that I want to see is that the airport expand, not only revenue-wise, of course, but for the ability to house and to bring in more traffic. That equals a great revenue for the city of Nampa. So, and I realize that we're constrained by the west and the east because of the roads. And so it looks like you have to go to the south to parallel this one runway. Yes, thank you. So was the city would they be able to purchase another area for a runway? I mean, so, and who would fund that? Because I notice it's in the master plan, but I don't know where that would come from. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I think we need to do that, but
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
have to change the construction of this one runway to equal the other.
So I'm going to address, you had a couple of questions in there, so I'm going to
Yeah.
address them kind of one at a time. The first is the fact that we're constrained by land. That was one of the biggest weaknesses that was identified in that SWOT analysis, is we only have so much land to expand. And so we're looking at new and innovative ways to create those hangar developments and get that economic opportunity in so that we can encourage more users for the airport. That being said, what I have up on the table right now is our airport layout plan. And you talked about potentially moving south. We have talked with some of the property owners to the south. They are not interested right now in selling their property. However, if you look at the road or the runway impact zones on either end, we do have some opportunities to expand east and west a little bit and acquire some property there. But anytime you extend the runway or add another runway, it's going to extend that impact zone out as well. So we've got a couple of land purchase type acquisitions planned in our CIP. But it's going to be a few years to get through all of the federal process to start acquiring land like that.
Has
I-
the federal, I'm sorry.
Could I follow up on that a little bit? And Lindsay's sitting here. We just finished the airport master plan, which was a different process. And there was tremendous discussion about extending those runways. And there was actually a lot of opposition.
Oh, was there?
There was at the time, and I think at that time in the master plan, it was recommended that we maintain the current, but maybe, Lindsay, am I incorrect in this? Correct, okay. Because it was a big, big topic. And at the airport master plan, which was a totally separate process, we finished the master plan probably about 1.5 years ago. Is that about right? Okay, and in that, Jeff's here, and he was over it at that time, so you unfortunately didn't get to be here during that time. The community came out in a very big way, very, very opposed to expanding the runways. And what I think the decision was at that time, we're going to be the best little airport around, but we're going to do it within the footprint that we have. Is that correct or incorrect? I just want to make sure, just in answering this question, and I don't, just since you didn't have the privilege of getting to be here during that process. So at this time, based on that airport master plan, I don't know that the master plan does reflect adding to the runways. It does not.
It does
Okay.
not.
And then the business plan was a separate process that we really, and I'm thankful that we've done this because it's how do we monetize? How do we make sure that we're making the best out of what we have? So anyway, so I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll let you go to your next
No,
question.
That's exactly what I was getting at, Mary. Bless you. Because if you notice Ketchum and Sun Valley, they're a small airport, but they're a very busy airport. I would like to actually see that here. And I think they're also restrained by business and property. So I was just wondering if I could throw that out to,
The business plan did an analysis on our current amenities, and that did include the length and the width of our current runway. They recommended they didn't say don't extend it, but their recommendation was potentially we could widen it a little bit. But based on the number of users that we have, the type of users, our current length is adequate and it doesn't need to be extended.
okay. So it sounds like we're just somewhat landlocked on that issue.
However, there's one business opportunity, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys are the experts, I'm not. But there's one opportunity that we could avail of ourselves of, and that is the backcountry flying by putting in a dirt runway. And I don't know did they address that in this at all? Because in the master plan, we talked a little bit about it, because you can't land, we are a great launching point for backcountry flights. People coming in, landing here, getting totally equipped, and then taking off and going in the backcountry. But those wheels can't land on pavement. They need to be landing on dirt because it's not good for the wheels. So that's a piece of business that I think that we could absolutely be outstanding in, but we would need to be able to land on grass. So that I think it's a great business opportunity for us, but evidently we didn't discuss that in this plan.
I
don't
can't
think-
speak to that. I don't remember seeing it. Lindsay wasn't in there.
I'm sorry, Crystal.
No, it's a great question. I know, we do have grass and weeds directly adjacent to the runway, so there are opportunities for that, but I'll let Lindsay talk to it.
I'm happy to answer. So we have a group, the Idaho Aviation Association, who's working with the Boise Flight Standards Office to evaluate the airport for a grass strip. They really would like to put one infield in between the runway and parallel taxiway, so they're asking for authorization and the safety of that plan. If that's not an option, we'll start looking at plans to possibly have a grass strip south of the existing runway. So we're on it. Hopefully we can get one, because that would be a huge benefit, like I said, for the backcountry pilots and their tires. That's the biggest complaint. I can't remember how much tire they lose every time they land on the runway, so they really, really would appreciate a turf runway.
I think it's a great business opportunity for us as a
Definitely.
community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Mayor,
Yes.
thank you, Lindsay, thank you for your presentation, Crystal. The only question I had, and I think we're not really talking about the layout at this point, we're just talking about the rates, correct? Okay.
Well, I mean, it references everything, so I wanted to give you a preview of what was included in it, and that included the market analysis rate, kind of like to whet your appetite for next council meeting when I will be coming to talk directly about airport rates.
But lengthening the runway, doing an alternate runway is not a part of what we're considering at all.
It included everything in this business plan, so even opportunities for, widening the roadway and things like that as a whole. But it doesn't say we have to do it, and we're not adopting or committing to doing it.
The reason I ask, I have had the opportunity to serve on the Airport Commission for several years, and I know we've had these conversations in the past, and FAA and the RPZ and all of that, those discussions brought us to where we're at right now and understanding that our approach should be looking at expanding our business plan to be able to incorporate more hangars. Obviously, MAF would be one of the first users for the grass strips because that's what their planes are for. My question is, in looking at the rate comparisons between Napa and Caldwell, is what's in our packet the preferred, is this what has been suggested and approved by the Airport Commission as far as to bring forward?
What I have in the packet right now is the recommendation from the business plan. The recommendation from the Airport Commission will be different.
Oh, okay. Just looking at the comparison between us and Caldwell, we're looking at about 8 to 11 cents as far as for the annual square foot for the defined leasehold compared to 23 to 39 cents. So, I mean, we're half to a third of what they charge. And then looking at the other, again, we're about a third of what Caldwell is charging. So I was just wondering why we're approaching it in that fashion. But if the comfort level is where it's at with these numbers, as far as moving forward, then I guess I would accept the recommendation. I was just wondering why we're deficient in that large of a percentage.
Yeah, I have a page for this, just again, to give you a preview, and I will deep dive more into this next meeting. It looked at all of the amenities in general, and making us the most expensive or the exact same as Caldwell doesn't necessarily entice people to come to our airport, right? Because we have different uses. What I have right here on the screen, and this is not in your packet, so I apologize. I just made a backup slide in case this question came up.
Good for you.
So stepping through these colors again, that yellow box is the building footprint. So that's what we're doing right now. And if you look to the right on these columns, the current rate is 32.5 cents per square foot. So if you looked at just these 4 hangars, the amount that we get is just over $3,400 for these 4 hangars if we did nothing. If you compare that to the yellow, the blue, and the red, which is what this airport business plan recommended at a rate of 25 cents, so we took it somewhere in the middle, the rate that we would be charging is just over $7,800. So you can see the difference in income that we would get from those. When we presented this to the Airport Commission, they met somewhere closer to the middle, and we're calling it a modified leasehold, which is just that area in the blue and the yellow. So it's the building footprint plus the areas directly out on either side to the taxiways, which means that the end hangars aren't getting dinged for their third connection, basically. And so you can see if we charged the rate that they suggested, which was 25 cents, it was 23 cents, I apologize. we get to about $5,900, which
So
will be the
how does
recommend.
that compare with then Caldwell?
So we would be at 23 cents as a leasehold in Caldwell, and I think Caldwell has actually increased. They were at 23 cents. Lindsay, do you know offhand what Caldwell is now?
So could you repeat that on the mic?
Yeah, at their last meeting, they went to 32.5 cents per square foot for a leasehold.
They've jumped. Just looking at this chart, it's just a little confusing then, because I can see in the third row down, it shows the 23 cents for Caldwell, but it shows us at 8 to 11 cents as far as a mix there in the same category. So was that meant to read 23 cents to compare with theirs?
That isn't the recommended rate. That is the current rate.
Okay, so that's the current.
That's the current rate.
As of June
Okay,
of '22.
So
Right.
the farthest one then is the adjusted rate that you're talking about, that brings us to 23 cents.
The far right is the adjusted current rate, just so we could compare all of these together. The suggested rate is not captured on this table. These were just comparing existing rates as of June of 2022
Okay,
if we did nothing.
okay, so what we're saying then is we're going to be at or below Caldwell at this point.
If we did nothing, we are at or below Caldwell.
So with the increase, Caldwell's increase, did the commission, were they aware of the increase that Caldwell just approved at the time they recommended the 23 cents? Were they aware of that?
I believe at the time when we were discussing this, Caldwell was still in discussions, and they had some oppositions from having such a drastic increase. So it was not approved at that time.
So I have a question, and that is, should this go back to the commission for discussion before it comes to the council for a recommendation, in that there's new information that has come forth since they recommended 23 cents? When Caldwell made the decision to go to 32 cents, would the commission be more likely to come forward with a different recommendation to council with the new information?
Give me 1 second. Lindsay, do you know what day specifically Caldwell accepted? Okay, so
December 20th is
it
what
could,
you're
because that
thinking?
December 20th was after our last, we did get clarification again in the November council meeting on their recommendation before we came here. But it was prior to Caldwell accepting, if it
That's
was
what I-
December 20th.
So I just, well, first of all, my thought has nothing to do with tonight. Tonight, you're asking, our action item is to authorize the adoption of this airport strategic plan, of which I totally recommend we do. So maybe we'll do that, and then I'd like to ask council about suggesting that we go back, have the commission go back and reconsider before you bring it to us. I would like to see it go back to the commission personally and have them reconsider it because they have new information. I don't know,
Mayor, I
Council.
would agree with that, and we can make the motion, but quick 2 questions, if I may. Do our commissioners, any of the commissioners own hangars?
Yes,
What's how, 100%, or how many own hangars?
3,
Out of,
And how many commissioners?
5.
so 3 out of 5.
So, I mean, my personal comment, not anything against them or whatever, but to me, there is a little bit of conflict of interest there. Number 2, do we know how many hangars, physical hangars, there are at Caldwell compared to us? How many hangars? Supply and demand is what I'm getting at here.
Lindsay, do you have that number off the top of your head? You want to come up?
Lindsay, can you come forward just so
Sorry,
we're on record?
sorry, and then
No, you're good.
I agree
Yeah.
with what you have suggested.
I don't know how many hangars are at Caldwell. I can find that information out. I do know across the valley, there's a need for hangars. Right now, we have a wait list for the city hangars of 80-plus people. We have 60-plus people
Yeah.
who want to build hangars, and I know people are waiting
Yeah.
for hangars at Caldwell as well. So
Okay, and personal statement, I'm not interested in gouging, but I think we need to be at the market. And doggone it, I think we should be where Caldwell is unless our airport is very inferior to what Caldwell has. And I guess I don't fly planes, so I can't speak to that one way or the other. But I've been very proud of our airport, and hopefully we'll continue to be. Thanks for all your work, ladies.
thank you.
All right. I make the motion that we accept this first motion that their plan as stated.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion?
Mayor, to be clear, then we're adopting the plan as presented.
Yes.
But we're remanding back to the commission the rates, so they can come back again.
Yes, we're asking.
Is that a separate
Well,
motion?
it's not in this motion at all, because they haven't recommended the rates officially to us anyway.
Okay.
We're just on the side asking Lindsay or Crystal if they would go back to the commission and let them know, but it really doesn't have anything to do with this motion. Just let them know the sentiment of the council.
So will they be, is this time sensitive? We need to get these rates up and running like first of the year?
We need to approve the business plan that gives us a foundation for looking at rate increases. So at this time, we're asking for the adoption of the business plan, and then in a future council meeting, we will come with a recommendation for rates.
So that's not time
good.
sensitive then?
No.
Perfect. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Great presentation, good information. And thank you for just giving the heads up that since new information's come forward, we would appreciate them reconsidering what they're proposing to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it is after 6. I would like to move to 6.3 real quickly. This is an action item. This is to authorize the mayor to sign the Airport Improvements Program, AIP 37, state grant agreement and resolution for the F-238 MAN state grant match. This is approved in the FY23 budget, has been approved and reviewed by legal.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So that concludes our new business for this evening, and I'm just going to say right now that there is no unfinished business. So what we have left on the agenda is our public hearings that were scheduled to start at 6, and we will get them going right now. So our first public hearing, 7-1 on the agenda, there is a request for continuance to the January 17th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.2 is an action item. This is for annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and potential development agreement for 3 parcels totaling 7.84 acres. And this is on 0 East Railroad Street. And this is for KB Homes of Idaho LLC. And the owner, it's requested by the city of Nampa. So Christy, I see you standing there.
I will be the applicant this evening.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. The request before you this evening is for approval of annexation for 0 East Railroad Street. And basically, all this is just a cleanup. Upon annexation of the property to the north and the rezoning and the development of the property to the south, there is a potential for this property to become enclaved. Because the property is in the floodway, it will likely not be developed out as far as housing goes. There will be a pathway, landscaping, and open space proposed in this area. So for consistency of plan review and pathway construction, it's best that these areas are included in the city limits so that the city can review those at the time that they are platted. So the findings, the proposed findings in this case are that the property is contiguous to the city limits on the north and south sides where it adjoins residentially zoned properties that are within the city limits. The proposed RS6 zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan of residential mixed use, and so it would not create a spot zone. The land is undevelopable as it is within the FEMA reported floodway. This land is to be included in the already approved development plans for Reflections Edge subdivision and will need to be under the city's jurisdiction to review the construction drawings for the pathway. Therefore, it can reasonably be assumed to be available for orderly development of the city, and with the pathway construction would be considered to be in the interest of the public. City water, irrigation, and emergency services are all available to this property. There was no correspondence other than engineering does not oppose this. The conditions of approval are listed in your staff report, and these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Christy. Any questions, discussion? Okay. So Christy is both the applicant and the staff report this evening, and this is a public hearing, but I do not see that we have anyone signed up to testify this evening. So is there anyone here that had intended to testify? Seeing none. Council, do you have any questions for Christy before we close public hearing? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the will of council?
Mayor, it looks like it's met all the conditions as far as for the request, so I would make a motion to authorize the annexation and zoning to RS6 district for the 3 parcels listed in our packet,
Second.
with recommended conditions of approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Christy. Item 7.3 is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RML, which is limited multifamily zoning district and potential development agreement at 1112 Southside Boulevard. This is a 0.5 acre parcel for, I'm going to say this name wrong, Rodolfo Benitez. Okay, I know, I should have just not even tried it. Councilman Rodriguez,
I would love to say it. Could you
please.
just kill it?
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yes, I'll say it easily. Rodolfo Benitez. In Spanish, it'd be Rodolfo Benitez. There. gotta
Thank
say it
you
fast.
so much. I am very embarrassed, and I should have just turned to you.
Well, my grandfather's name Rodolfo. I know that one really well.
Oh, good for you. Rodolfo
Rodolfo
Benitez. Benitez.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, luckily for you, the applicant is
Is
not
not
here. They're running just a few minutes late. This is a very simple sewer annexation. If you would like me to proceed, I could do that, but they are on their way, so.
Mayor, I'd
Count-
be in favor of him just proceeding.
Thank you.
From what I've read, unless somebody else has a.
No, I think it's at the will of the council, and I'm thinking that would be fine for the applicant not to be here because it is easy. Thank you, Rodney.
You got 30 seconds.
Break records.
It's gonna break record, yeah.
Mayor and council, for the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director, and this is really simple. You've seen the staff report. I will just highlight where that's at, just off of Southside Boulevard and south of Amity. In the top right-hand corner, you can see where the old meat packing plant was. Just note here that high-density residential in the comp plan is to the east and to the south, and so that makes it possible for them to stretch the high-density designation or for a zone that would fit that high-density designation in the comp plan. So there's the RML zones. You can see in kind of that lightish salmon color. And then a little bit closer there, you can see directly to the east and to the south. So these are the proposed findings that staff recommended. It's very simple. It's compliant with the code, with the comprehensive plan. And again, you have those findings in your packet. The correspondence we've received is really general. Building department said it needs to meet their codes, and the Nampa Engineering Division gave their standard comments and then their conditions. And I've incorporated those into the recommended conditions of approval. And here's a potential motion for your consideration.
Rodney, thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions for Rodney? Okay, so this is a public hearing, and again, we do not have anyone signed up to testify. Is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this item? Seeing none, are there any closing comments, questions for Rodney? Stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What is the will of council?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RML zoning district at 1112 Southside Boulevard for Rodolfo Benitez with the recommended conditions and potential findings.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I've kind of had a history of voting no when someone doesn't show up to council. So I think that I don't judge anyone for voting otherwise, but I've just done that in the past, and so I'll be voting no.
Mayor, I would just to clarify, I did recommend, they're on their way, so it's not where they're not on their way, but it's my recommendation that we move ahead, so.
Were they not here because of the new schedule?
That
Let-
could be, there's some language barriers there. And so they said they're on their way, but they were surprised.
At the time? Yeah, okay. So it could be the time change, it could be, yeah, those
I
barriers.
just didn't want it to necessarily be their fault. I mean,
I don't blame you.
we could have waited and done the other public hearing before this one.
Yes.
Question for Todd. It does state that a potential development agreement, is there anything we need to include language-wise for a development agreement?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Haverfield, I don't think they're recommending a development agreement in this case, so I think you're fine without it. They just put it on there in case you do want one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
Unfortunately, my rule is they have to be here for me to hear them. But this is a pretty simple situation. I'm going to bend the rule a little bit this time. If it had been something else, I definitely would say no.
And we probably wouldn't have proceeded.
Right, that's correct.
Right, we would have paused. So, thank you. If there's no other discussion, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Bauer.
No.
Brunner.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
5 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
And our last public hearing for the evening is item 7.4. This is an action item. This is the vacation of a portion of the public utility easement for water at the big storage site at 504 Caldwell Boulevard. This is due to an encroachment of an office building 6 inches into the easement for Big Storage Idaho, representing Lafkey Properties. Is the applicant with us this evening? Good evening. Go ahead and come forward and give us your name, address, and let us know what you're wanting to accomplish.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors, for your indulgence in this matter. It's a bit of a housekeeping item. There was an error on site during the construction process, and we're simply trying to rectify that error. And William Mason is here. He owns Mason Associates, who is our surveyor, and he's worked closely with city staff to find a solution that's proposed to you tonight.
Awesome. And can you remind me of your name
Oh,
and your
Aaron
address?
Lafkey, 504 Caldwell Boulevard, owner of the subject property.
Thank you, just for the record.
Yeah. sorry
Thank you.
about that.
You're good?
So if you have technical questions, I would refer you to William Mason. And I believe the planning department they have conditions of approval, so.
And the recommendations of exactly what
Yes.
we need to have done, as in our packet, okay? Do you have any comments, Mr. Mason? No? Okay. Are you good? Is that it?
I hope so.
Okay, well, you know what, so because it's a public hearing, we will have you come back and we'll ask you any closing questions or anything else we need to know after the staff report and after public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you is for vacating a portion of an easement located at 504 Caldwell Boulevard because the office building was built 6 inches into the existing easement. They're going to pick it up and move it over. Obviously, the reason why we have these easements is for convenient access to whatever may be under the ground. The building department had one comment about meeting Title IV building regulations. The engineering division has no concerns other than that they would like a new easement recorded. That's what the condition of approval is there. The findings of approval are that this request was processed in accordance with Idaho state law and that vacating the easement is necessary and in the public interest. And these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Yes?
So the current easement is 10 feet wide? So we're just going to make it 9 foot 6 inches wide?
You'll have to ask Will that question. I don't know if they're picking the whole thing up and moving it 6 inches, or if they're decreasing it by 6 inches. He'll be able to answer that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's along the property line, so they're pretty limited where they can.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, it is a public hearing. So, Christie, thank you. Are there any other questions for Christie? Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. It is a public hearing, and at this time, there is no one signed up to testify, but I would like to ask Mr. Mason to come up and testify as part of this public hearing as to what you're going to be recommending.
Yes. William Mason with Mason and Associates. The address is 924 3rd Street South here in Nampa. So with this easement vacation, we actually, our owner owns the property to the, we're going to call it the southeast. And so he's able to take the area that we're vacating and add it to the other side. And so there'll still be a 10-foot easement there. It'll just be shifted slightly to the southeast from the northwest.
That's a better solution. So, you feeling better?
A little bit.
Okay.
I feel good, just like tight in the lungs. Yeah, I went through COVID during Christmas and New Year's. So.
Oh, that's the way you want to spend the holiday?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Okay.
We don't have to take down
Yes.
decorations and stuff, though. Well, right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, as mentioned, there isn't anyone signed up to testify. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this matter this evening? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for council to ask any further questions of the applicant or his representative or staff. Okay, seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
What is the, thank you. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And what is the will of the council?
Mayor Kling, I'll make the motion to grant the vacation request as presented to us in our packet with conditions of approval.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. Thank you.
Get to feeling better.
So,
This
as
is-
mentioned this evening,
We're not even getting to public hearings.
there are no unfinished business items, and we do not have any executive sessions. At that, I would stand for a motion to close, adjourn from city council.
So moved.
Second.
No, we're not, no.